welcome to the podcast series Talking Success, connecting the global FinTech community. I'm Stacey Jafta, and today I'll be chatting with Darren Franks, founder and CEO of TalentintheCloud. TalentintheCloud offers specialist executive search services across the FinTech sector. We help business leaders hire senior and middle management experts across the entire FinTech spectrum. Darren, you made it. You made the cut.
I did. Thank you. 25 episodes in, and you finally allowed me to come on.
I know. You finally are of importance. No, I'm kidding. I don't know if many people know, but you really power this podcast, and I think it's just really exciting to finally have you on. How are you doing?
I'm very well. But to be honest with you, Stace, I can't take any credit for this other than perhaps coming up with the idea and paying the bills. But this is all down to you, right? This whole thing is down to you. So I'm not taking any credit for this.
I'm really glad you pushed me. It's really incredible to see what's come of the podcast. And this is really an opportunity for me to get to know you a little bit more. I know that we speak for hours every day, but I really want to get to know more about the beginning of the business and really what drove you to building TalentintheCloud.
Cool. Okay. I'll give you the abridged version. So if you've got any questions and you want me to elaborate, then feel free to ask. But,
sure.
Okay, so a bit of background. I spent, this is now, I think, my 21st year in the world of staffing and executive search. For 16 of those years, I was with one company where I joined as a junior with, I think I even had hair at that time. And that tells you how long ago that was, right? And worked my way up, and it eventually became sort of that group CEO, and that was managing businesses or offices, branches in the UK, Dubai, and South Africa. Anyway, I exited that business, where are we now? Nearly 5 years, well, yeah, almost exactly 5 years ago, and wanted to do something a little bit different with my life. And the last thing I wanted to do was go back into recruiting or executive search. So I thought, hey, listen, I love tech, right? I'm a bit of a wannabe, as you know, Stace. I'm a bit of a wannabe techie. So I thought I'd go and build some software because that seemed to be the cool thing to do, and everyone's sort of making a lot of money doing that. So that's originally what TalentintheCloud was. It was software that was going to be used for various parts of the recruitment process or the talent acquisition process. So that was the original plan, right? And you know me, we changed directions a few times, and that was one of those when I quickly realised A, I don't have the expertise, and B, I certainly don't have the money, and I kind of canned that one. And then I got a call from someone that I knew historically from Kenya. He called me and said he's just joined this payments company as their sort of group CFO, and they've just had some private equity investment and need to expand across 18 countries in the next 24 months, to which my reply was, well, that's very nice. Good luck. He said, no, listen, we'd love you to tell us how we can do that. Some of these are countries that we've never been in before, let alone had operations. So I said, listen, I can come in and talk to you and tell you how I would do it, but I'm not doing the doing. I'm now a consultant, right?
Yeah.
Long story short, they flew me over to Nairobi. I spent a week with the Exco team, knocking around ideas, whiteboarding, and sort of came up with a process. And I think after the fourth day, the CEO said, "Okay, great. When do you start?" And I was like, "No. Listen, you got me wrong. I'm not doing the doing, right? I'm a consultant." And he said, "No. Listen, you're the only one that can do this because it's your idea." So I said, "Oh, okay. Well, listen, being completely honest with you, it's an idea. It's how I think it would work." He said, "Well, let's give it a go. Let's pilot it." And we piloted that, and it worked phenomenally well. Anyway, that business is now and still is a client of ours, as you well know. That's DPO Group, who have recently exited to Network International, and they were definitely our anchor client, and a business and a team that I hold very dear to my heart. So that was the history. That was the brief history. There's lots more to tell, but that's the brief history.
Even taking it back, you had DPO Group come to you. We've had clients, and this is kind of our model going forward, is we really want to position ourselves where we have potential clients coming to us saying that they've heard what we've done, they've seen what we've done. Why do you think we have fintechs come to us, and we have potential clients who have been burnt many times by recruitment agencies, and every agency says, no, but we're different. And I truly believe that we are. What do you think sets us apart, or even you apart, because you had DPO Group come to you before TalentintheCloud was TalentintheCloud?
Okay, so I think it's deliberate, as you know, Stacey. When I decided actually we were going to become an executive search firm, what I didn't want, and specifically didn't want to have a sales team. Okay, the one thing I hated about work or the industry, the staffing industry, is A, its terrible reputation, but B, the fact that most people, I'm being probably a little bit belligerent here, but most people that work in this industry tend to be salespeople, and quite frankly, that doesn't get the best result for the client. It's not about selling; it really is about understanding the company, understanding the candidates, and really making that match. And I think people forget that. The second thing is I'm a terrible sales manager. I really am. I don't have the patience. So I wanted to build a business that wasn't reliant on having salespeople. So I embarked on the whole sort of inbound marketing. During my my very brief journey as an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur, right? The next Elon Musk. I kind of subscribed to all these different websites and groups, and some of the material that I was getting, and there was one company in particular, which I'm happy to mention, which was HubSpot. The way that they engage with you as a potential customer and the whole onboarding process was just blew my mind. And I thought, well, I wonder if I can take this concept and apply this to the world of recruitment. So that's a long-winded answer of saying it was deliberate. The second reason why we get clients coming to us is we work in a niche, okay? And we've dedicated ourselves to that niche, and we're not afraid to say no to organizations and to opportunities that are outside of our core area, okay, which is obviously FinTech. And I think this dedication, really, Stace, it's as you know, I've spent a lot of time traveling the continent, going to events, speaking at events, joining communities, spearheading communities, championing diversity in the sector. All of these things, I think it gives awareness. So we have some awareness in the market. We spent a lot of time this year working on our brand, really nailing our brand. Obviously, during the COVID period, we had a bit of time, so we used that sensibly and focused on the brand. And I think all of those things in conjunction with each other have resulted in us, and I'm really proud of this actually, not having made one single outbound sales call it'll be 5 years in 2 weeks' time. So I think that's something we're really proud of internally.
Do you know what as well, Darren? I actually, getting to know you and working so closely with you, you have a passion for FinTech as well. And you spend hours after work just reading up and being part of these communities. It's more than just getting these clients on board, but really diving deeper in. And I think that shows when you speak to clients as well.
Yeah, you made me laugh there. After work. What's after work?
I don't think you have work hours.
Listen, I think it's important. I think, if you're going to service a sector, you have to understand it and you have to be passionate about it. And, there's for me to go and do, I don't know, mechanical engineering, for example. I know nothing about mechanical engineering. I wouldn't even know where to put oil in my car, quite frankly. So, for me, that's just not a sector that would interest me. But FinTech has always interested me, even before it was sexy and called FinTech, right? Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, FinTech's been around for donkey's years, ever since credit cards came out. That's a FinTech, right? So I've always had an interest in it. I think it is massively important.
What about a business that's struggling to get inbound leads? You were able to get this pre the business being set up. What advice would you have for them?
My advice, find a niche, map out the ecosystem. That's massively important. I can't stress how important that is. And what I mean by that is, you may have your target customers, okay? They may all be, we'll take FinTech as an example, right? So our typical customer is a fast-growing FinTech, okay? And whether that be in payments or remittances or crypto or whatever it may be, or challenger banks, they are fast-growing FinTechs. And I want to speak to the CEOs, okay? So we always engage at CEOs, C-suite level, and that's where we have our conversations. But there's lots of other service providers that also want to speak to the CEOs and that also want to service that sector. So I might have a really strong relationship with DPO, as an example, whereas there may be another supplier that doesn't have a strong relationship, but would really like to have one. So how can I work in partnership with that organization? And I'm a big believer, again, something we talk about a lot is, what goes around comes around. And I'm happy to introduce people, obviously once I've done a bit of due diligence on them and, their products, to people that I know, to my contacts. And it works two ways, right? So again, if I've not got a relationship with X company in wherever it may be, but someone else in the ecosystem does, then they can introduce me to their contacts. And, it's really important. Again, going back to your question, how have we generated, how have we been successful as a business without having to make any sales calls or having an outbound sales strategy, is purely by relationships. You have to build relationships. And this does not happen overnight. So if you think you can spin up a website, a landing page and send out a few emails and expect to get quality incoming business, you won't. You'll get some, but you won't get quality.
We sat down for many interviews and you just explaining to me the vision you had for Talent in the Cloud, the passions you have, and something that really stood out to me was gender diversity is really important to you and the business. Where did this passion come from, and how does Talent in the Cloud work to promoting gender diversity in the fintech space?
So this came from, actually it came from the Middle East, I've got to be honest. So I obviously, as I said, I've worked in the Middle East for a number of years, and it wasn't until I got to Africa, actually till I met a DPO group. This is, so that's why I hold DPO group so dear to my heart, is that, they've inspired, and Eran, who's the CEO, has inspired me just no end to achieve what we've achieved, albeit a fraction of what DPO have achieved, perhaps. But, when I met DPO and I sat with their Exco team, which was made up of their head of sales, was a lady, their group head of marketing was a lady, their COO was a lady. And I just thought, you know what? This is the first time I've sat in a room with decision makers who are women in years. Because in Dubai, literally none of my clients were women. Of course, there were women involved in some of the processes, but not decision makers. And that kind of struck a chord. And, historically, you speak to my friends in the UK, and, I've always had female friends, always. Probably equal amounts of female friends to male friends. And it just got me thinking. And then I got in touch with a lady called Martha Fisher, who many people may know who are listening to this. Martha's the CEO of the European Women in Payments Network, and also the African Women in FinTech and Payments Networks. And we just connected on LinkedIn, and we had a chat. And she's the most remarkable lady, and she won't mind me saying this. We have lots of banter. We wind each other up. But ultimately, our passion for making sure that diversity is at the forefront of the sector is so vital. The amount of product, when I'm speaking to clients, and when we could travel and walking around fintech's offices, and you walk into their product department and you look around, you say, okay, great, so who's your product designed for? And they're like, everyone. Okay, but there's only men here. So who's designing a product for women, right? We use focus groups, and that's just not enough as far as I'm concerned. I know there's apps that I love on my phone, fintech apps. I love them; they're brilliant. My wife hates them. She's like, I don't like this. I don't like the way that I have to move and navigate. It's because it's not been designed, with input from women. So that was really where this stemmed from. And, working with Martha and the other sort of board members of certainly the African Women in FinTech and Payments community here on the continent has just been so inspiring. Again, there are lots and lots and lots of really successful women in the sector. Unfortunately, they don't seem to have too much of a voice. And people don't know unless you really dig deep. And even when you dig, if you don't know where to dig, you're not going to find, lists of people. You might now because of some of the work we've done, but historically, you wouldn't find these lists on Google, right? You have to really, really, search in depthly to try and find some data. So that was really where this sort of passion came from. And then, again, I'm not going to mention any names, but I ran a breakfast event in Nairobi 3 years ago, which was, again, I think the first meeting of the African women in fintech and payments, and African women and me. So I stand out like a sore thumb, right? But I think that's one of the other sort of reasons maybe we've got some sort of awareness in the market is you've got this, very strange white British man, walking around Africa and championing gender diversity for African women. But listen, I think there should be more of people like me doing this, quite honestly. Again, I wrote a blog last year saying, FinTech needs more men. And
I remember the uproar.
Yeah, unfortunately, people didn't read the content; they just read the title. So
people love to comment before they read.
Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Yeah.
So as I was saying, we ran this event, and the women around this room or around this table were talking about some of the things they'd been asked, shall we say, in order to progress their career, and it was just jaw-dropping. I mean, I couldn't believe. Well, I could believe, but to hear it firsthand of what some of these women had been asked or told to do in order to progress their career, it was just unacceptable on every level. So, it's a big thing for us, Stacey, as you know.
Yeah.
We have, a culture in our business, and it's very much all about inclusiveness. If we work with or we get approached by a client and, they are sexist, racist, whatever it may be, we just will not work with them, full stop. I don't care who they are, how much money they've got, what influence they've got. If a company's values don't align with ours, then I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen with us. So, that's the other thing, right? We'll say no to as many customers as we say yes to. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit.
I even remember you pitching this podcast to me, and I'm like, Darren, it doesn't make sense. Why am I doing this podcast? You should be doing it. And you're like, no, there are enough male voices in the industry. And that, I think, stood out to me. You're not just sticking something on TalentintheCloud and saying diversity matters. I see that within our business, and we go beyond just putting more women in shortlists. That's not even the beginning of what we do. It's we go there, we're doing workshops, we're trying to find out what the problem is, how we can help more women in the space, whether that's doing specific content for them or giving them free LinkedIn and CV reviews, whatever we can do to help even other businesses position their job descriptions to have more women apply. It goes beyond just what can we do for the companies we work with, but the bigger picture as well.
Yeah, listen, I'm super proud of the stat that we had in 2019, which was 43% of the leaders we placed in Africa were women, right? For me, that was more of an achievement than any sort of profitability targets or revenue targets or growth targets that we had, right? And I truly, truly mean that. That was, we've achieved something. We actually are making a difference. I think a lot of services business claim they make a difference, right? But for me, that's tangible. That's something that's measurable. And that's something we can improve on.
I think if you hear me talk about TalentintheCloud, there's a lot of passion there. I love the business, but especially our values. Of course, we have diversity. Yeah. But then something that I'm not sure many people know is innovation is so important to us as well. Darren, the whole team can attest to this. We are continuously brainstorming ideas to just keep one step ahead. How does a business like recruiting, who is so known for their traditional ways, stay innovative?
They have a CEO who is like a magpie and will buy any bit of technology out there. I think. Listen, again, when I set up this business, I did not want to have a vanilla. Me too. I'm just another one of these hundreds, if not thousands, of recruitment companies that are there to try and make a quick buck. Some don't get me wrong, there are some great suppliers out there, great agencies, and we know a number of them who actually do a phenomenal job. But by and large, the vast majority, it's just not innovative. There's nothing creative. There's no real focus on trying to improve the experience, not only for the candidate, but for the client as well. And it works both ways. We were using, for example, video interviewing before, when Corona was still a beer, right? So it wasn't, we didn't jump on necessarily the bandwagon, albeit it's now an essential part of doing business. But, a lot of the ways that we go about finding people, interviewing people, finding clients or making clients find us, how we improve our processes, how we look at our branding, how do we immerse ourselves in new communities and new tools. And, I'm going to mention Clubhouse because this wouldn't be a podcast in February 2021 without mentioning Clubhouse.
Yes.
I've got you involved in it now, but, jump full in because it may be something that lasts 5 minutes. It may be something that, is the next Facebook. We don't know. I think certainly it's got potential. We ran a room, didn't we, last week, Stacey? We had nearly 400 people, and that's the first room that we'd ever run. We had nearly 400 people come, which was unbelievable. So I think it's, how do we stay innovative? I think everyone that we hire into the business, I think or has that...
Curiosity,
thank you. That's a great word. To just push the boundaries. And I think one of the other values we've got, without this turning into kind of a sales pitch on Talent in the Cloud, but we have a JFDI attitude, right? And because there's obviously going to be people listening, and I wouldn't want to swear, but we'll abbreviate that to just frigging do it. Yeah. And it's not a derogatory, draconian value, as in you must just do it. It's not at all. It's try something, do it. If it doesn't work, don't stress about it. Actually, if it doesn't work, that's great because we can learn some lessons, right? As long as it doesn't cost a fortune and send us bankrupt, then we're always happy to try something new. If someone's got a new idea, just do it, right? Try it, do it, test it, and then come. Let's discuss it as a group. And if we think that it can add value, let's roll it out. If it doesn't, then we won't. And I think it's having or empowering people to understand, and we've had this a few times, hey, Stace. People go, I'm afraid of making that mistake. Don't. I prefer you to make a mistake and go, I shouldn't have done that, or we shouldn't have done this because of X, Y, Z, than sitting there saying, I wonder if we could have done that. Would it have been better? Let's just try something.
There's also an immense amount of growth that comes with that. And I've seen that with the rest of the team and me especially. You always say, go try this. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready. And my personality. I want to be ready before I jump right in.
You mean like that time I dragged you on stage in Rwanda?
Yes. You just typed, hey, Stace, want to go to Rwanda on Sunday? And then ended up running a conference. But I have grown so much because of this leadership style and knowing that it's not a mistake, it's a learning moment, and that's been incredible. And
thank you. I think it is testament to the people that we've got in the business. Again, it's I think as a leader or as a business owner, the idea is not to be in control of every element of your business. You can't. That's just not possible, right? You literally end up working 24 hours a day, and and you end up burning out, which I was certainly very, very close to doing that a couple of years ago. And it's about trusting people. Mid-2019, or even towards the end of 2019, no one knew what was going to happen in 2020, right? What did we do during those kind of very, very, very worrying few months? We stopped, didn't we? We just said, right, listen, let's just stop. What can we do? What's the market situation? How do we, thanks to the sort of my business partner and our sort of back office finance side, we were a very prudent business, so we weren't worried about sort of running out of cash. We knew we had enough cash in the bank for a good year, so there was none of that stress. But how do we pivot slightly without changing the entire business, just to get us through those sort of 3 months or so? And, we did some really cool things, didn't we?
I think it changed the future of the business as well, realizing the importance of branding. This is a conversation we have often. I don't think we knew the importance of it, and taking the time to rebrand, understand our vision, and then boom, when markets opened up again, it was incredible to see. We have onboarded more clients than ever, and that's really, really impressive to say in the midst of a pandemic.
And look, I can't take credit for that as well. I think we've got to give James, who's our sort of head of digital and growth, a massive accolade for that, because he took that upon himself. He came to me and said, right, we need a brand book. And I went, yeah, all right. Whatever that is. I didn't realize it was going to take 3 months to build, but was it worth it? Absolutely. I mean, if I look at the branding, certainly when we started to where we are now, I mean, it's not just about having a fancy logo and having good looking content. It's not about that. The brand is way more important. And I don't think, again, in previous businesses, the brand really wasn't that important, or was marketing. And I look at where we are now. If we didn't have support of the team, we didn't have the brand behind us, we didn't have, again, a lot of the business we get, let's be honest, is through word of mouth and referrals. If we look at, I'm going to use some real world examples. We'll look at DPO and how that one account has opened up so many different opportunities. We got very close to Apis Partners, who are the private equity firm behind DPO. We got very close with them. They opened up their portfolio, introduced us to numerous people. That's still happening today. We've got now one of the biggest FinTech groups in Southern Africa. And again, that came through. If I trace everything back, it's all come from that, that first conversation I had with DPO nearly 5 years ago. And I'm not saying that's exclusive. That's just one example. So, the brand is more than just fancy images and nice Instagram posts. It's about giving people confidence that we are, we deliver. Ultimately, we deliver, right? And that's what it's about.
Darren, I'm glad we finally did this. Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
You know what? I could speak to you for hours. And, we speak for hours.
We do speak for hours. We just did a Clubhouse for 4 hours the other day. So yes, we can speak for hours. Where's the best place for listeners to reach you?
Best place for people to reach me. Either LinkedIn, although I think I'm okay saying this. I think LinkedIn have caught me out, and I think they think I'm having an affair with Clubhouse, because my engagement levels on LinkedIn since I've been hashtagging Clubhouse seem to have plummeted. So I don't know whether there's some sort of algorithm on LinkedIn's end where they're trying to stop any movement over to Clubhouse. But yes, you can find me on LinkedIn. Drop me an email there or message there. You can find me probably on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me definitely on Clubhouse, and we've got a very cool group called FinTech Africa, so join that if you're on Clubhouse. And you can always find me in front of my laptop, my phone, much to
no
the
matter what
displeasure.
The hour.
Yeah, much to the displeasure of my family, but I'm trying to be good. But LinkedIn or Clubhouse probably are the two main platforms that I'm on these days.
Thanks again, Darren.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Stace.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Talking Success, Connecting the Global FinTech Community. Feel free to follow us on LinkedIn at TalentintheCloud. And if you're interested in exec talent, expanding your team, or you yourself are looking for a new, exciting change in your career, check out our website, talentinthecloud.io.